Good afternoon, Facebook. It's Brother Perry Williams coming to you live from my home. Continuing our Daniel Bible study. We're in chapter 7. I want to apologize about something. I've been trying to use different platforms to do this, find the best way to do it. I've been trying to find a way where I could upload these at a certain time during the day, because sometimes when I'm trying to do one of these, I'll get phone calls or there'll be other things come up, and it's hard to do a set time on these, especially every day of the week. So I've been using other platforms. Yesterday I tried using a YouTube platform, and it wouldn't let me live stream, but it allowed me to record a message. Well, that message was like 600 megabytes. By the time I got it uploaded to YouTube, well, then I had to transfer it over to Facebook. But here's the problem that happened yesterday with it. And like I said, I've been trying different ways. I've tried to do regular video. I've tried to upload it that way, and they're just too big of files to do. And because I've been wanting to get away from the Facebook platform. But like I said yesterday, I uploaded to Facebook, but it didn't load it. It put it on the page of Facebook for Jonesboro website, our Facebook page, but it didn't put it in the right place. It didn't put it in the videos. So you had to scroll down the main page and you would come to it. Well, we pinned it to the top, so in case you missed Daniel 6, you'll be able to find that. But I am trying to do this. I really am. I don't like the way the system is. It seems like something's always wrong with the system, or it won't work right. And I'm trying to make sure that the people wanting this, and I've got a lot of people who keeps asking me about it. You can find it on Jonesboro Facebook page. Now they're not labeled of what they're just labeled by date. But I do have, and I keep reminding people this, I do have a YouTube account under Brother Perry Williams that each video is labeled, so you know exactly what I've been talking about, and you can follow that all the way through the Revelation study we did and through the book of Daniel. Now we're going to be going into Revelations during Daniel 7 because there's some things we need to bring out. And also we'll be talking a little bit about Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, which is talking about the Battle of Armageddon, which some people's ask about on that too, and how this works in, which you'll see some of this in Daniel chapter 7. Now the first thing you got to know about Daniel chapter 7, Daniel was not written in a chronological order. There was not, chapter 1 goes to chapter 2 goes to chapter 3, and so on and so forth. And we find that out. Each beginnings of every chapter tells when it occurred. Daniel wrote those in what year of King Nebuchadnezzar, and so on and so forth. You know, we come through and we went through all the way to Belshazzar. He was the king, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, who lost the kingdom. The Medes and Persians took over. And we've talked about Daniel chapter 2, about the statue with the head of gold, the arms and chest of silver, the waist of bronze, and the legs of iron, and the feet of iron and clay mixed together, and the 10 toes, and so on and so forth. Those are very important. Chapter 7 has some other I don't know how I want to put this. It has some other meanings to it, but a lot of people say that the chapter 7 is just referring back to King Nebuchadnezzar's vision about the statue. Now, there's some, these are great Bible scholars and stuff. They've studied prophecy and stuff. But I, for one, don't believe it actually refers back to those. For one, there's some different reasons why I say that, okay? And but there's a whole list here that I've got, and I'll kind of give you some of those as we study chapter 7. I'm just giving you a preamble to it right now, because 7 is going to take probably a couple days to get through, especially when we add the other stuff in about the Battle of Armageddon and what it's appearing. Now chapter 7 is talking about some beast. Okay, when we get into it, we're talking about 4 beasts, which represents world governments. These world governments, like I said, some people believe they're just referring back to the Medes conquering Babylon, and then Greece coming in conquering the Medes and Persians, and then Rome coming in conquering them. Some people believe that's what it's talking about. It's just referring to them in a different way under the label of a lion and a bear and so on and so forth. But I really believe that chapter 7 is more prophetic than anything else too. It's talking about future events. Now, it could be referring back to some of that. Like I said, I can't say it's not, because there's a lot of great Bible scholars that are out there that teaches that. But I really believe that it's referring to world governments that will be in place during the time of the Antichrist. They will all be in place at the same time. And they're pretty unique resemblances of what we've got going on today. So, like I said, there's a lot of different things here. But like I said, when you start out with Daniel chapter 7, it begins with a study, or it begins with an opening that tells you when it occurred. Now we know Belshazzar, the king, has already been killed, and his kingdom's already been taken over by the Medes and Persians. But here's what it says in Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. We know that happened in chapter 5. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he was lying on his bed. He wrote down the substances of his dream. So it says in the first year that King Belshazzar was as actually a king, that's when Daniel had this dream. So he had, excuse me, he had this dream years before. So the Daniel chapter 7 is not chronological. So it says this, Daniel said, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the four winds of heaven, churning up the great sea. Now remember, we talked in Revelations about the great sea being people, or groups of people, just the sea of people. Now in Revelations chapter 7, it talks about four winds of the earth, all right, and four angels were holding it back. And it could have been referring to storms or whatever. Now, possibly, this is talking, if you notice, it's different words. This is four winds of heaven. Some people believe that this has to do with heavenly rulers, but a lot of scholars don't believe that. They believe it has to do with demonic influence. And Daniel said he saw the four winds of heaven churning up the great sea, okay, which means the sea of people. And I really believe that myself. I see what he's talking about here is that during the time at the end, because this is getting into end time prophecy, that demonic influence is going to become so great, and it's going to stir up the sea of people, the nations. It's going to stir them up. Its demonic influence is going to be coming from all directions. You're not going to be able to get away from it. All right? But while that's happening, while this demonic influence is going on, and these four winds or these demonic influences are stirring up the people, it says this, four great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. Now, like I said, these four great beasts, some people believe they're just referring back to Daniel chapter 2 and the statue. But if you notice, we're talking about beasts here, and the other one is talking about metals, like gold, silver, bronze, and iron. This is talking about beast, and he describes the beast. And really, when it describes these beasts, it does not actually show, like one it describes as a lion. And they believe the lion was referring to Babylon, but Babylon never had a lion as part of its symbol. So I don't really believe it can be that. But here's what it says. It says, four great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. Now this is going to get pretty cool because you're going to notice something here. The first was like a lion. Now remember, it doesn't say it was a lion. It was like a lion. And it had wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a man, and the heart of a man was given to it. So this is referring about an empire or a nation that rose up. It'll be, and all these will interlap. All four of these beasts will be there during the time that Christ comes back to this earth, okay? But one was like a lion. Now, we do know this, and it could be a lot of different things, and it had the wings of an eagle, and they were clipped from it. It's really interesting to look at the United States, since World War I, has been England's protective wings. I don't know if you ever looked at England's flag. It's got a picture of a lion standing on its rear feet, just like this prophesied about, okay? Now, some people say that's not what it's talking about. It's something in the future you haven't seen yet. But when you get to looking at some of these things that Daniel wrote, it could represent a lot of our nations right now. All right? It says the first was like a lion that had wings of an eagle. Some people say that just means it can travel fast. It can come across the ground really fast. And I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground, so it stood on its 2 feet like a man, and the heart of a man was given it. England's crown or crest is a lion standing up with its feet on the ground, its rear feet. And this one pictures that its wings were taken from it. The wings of an eagle. The United States has always had the eagle as its national bird. Some people believe, and I believe this myself, I have yet to be proven wrong on this. Since World War I, the United States has been the backbone, been the wings underneath England. We've been protective wings over them. But after World War I and even World War II, we were there. But we begin to separate. All of a sudden, we begin to separate away from England. They've been doing their own thing. We've been doing our own thing also. But it could possibly mean this verse is actually talking about the place called England is going to be a nation that's going to rise up in the last days. Now, we do believe that the old Roman Empire is going to come out of that area over in that part of the world. So we don't know exactly whereabouts exactly on that, but this could be talking about that England and it's backing by America's protection, but now America's not really protecting England. But here's what it says. It goes on to say this, all right? And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, get up and eat your fill of flesh. Now, if you go on down through here, some people say this is also talking about one of the metals in the statue. But I really believe it's referring to another kingdom that's going to rise up during the last days. It's going to be in place during the last days. We know Russia has always had the symbol of a bear. And if you look at Russia with Stalin murdered more people than Hitler ever thought of doing. And just a terrible, terrible leader as far as, a vicious and violent leader. He murdered millions, 20 or 30 million people, and just killed them in concentration camps and stuff like that. So if you look at this as the bear, Russia's always had the bear as their symbol. And if you look at the ribs in its mouth, then you know what? That's a great picture of Russia. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But it's kind of unique because especially when I said we're going to be talking about Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, about the Battle of Armageddon, when you see the nations that it names out, it's not hard to see that this could actually represent Russia and coming on play and being a world leader in the last days and being very vicious. All right, then we go on to say this, okay? And like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into this today, but I just wanted to kind of get to a point where we were at. It says this, after that I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard. And on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads and was given authority to rule. Now remember in Revelations, the heads always represent kingdoms or powers of different areas. We talked about the 10 heads, okay? And the 10 horns, the 10 toes and stuff like that. These are all referring to kingdoms that are being placed with people over them. But it's talking about this beast has 4 different heads, which could be referring to 4 different kingdoms. It could be very swift. Now, some people say this leopard was referring to Alexander the Great when he conquered the Medes and Persians. He did it so quickly. He conquered the world in just a matter of years. It was almost an impossible thing, but he did it. But I really don't believe that. I believe it has something else to do. This could possibly be a coalition of, if you notice, where these come from, it could be a coalition between the Arabs and also African nations, okay? And a lot of people do believe that. And there's been a lot of war over there. Now, so what that would do is, what you're looking at is these beasts that we've talking about, these are going to rise up. They're going to be in power over there in that area around Jerusalem. And they're going to be very dominant people. But here's the last vision he had, okay? Daniel had. It said this. It says, and after that in my vision at night I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large orange teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims. It trampled underfoot whatever was left, and it was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. Now we've talked about the beasts that come up out of the earth in the book of Revelations, talking about the Antichrist. This is what Daniel's referring to. If you notice something, this beast or this nation that's going to rise up, or this government system, he's terrified when he sees this, and it's different than any other type of beast that's going to rise up. We've talked about the Antichrist's world, one economic system, one religious system. They will kill you if you don't worship the beast or Satan, and they're going to kill Christians. It's going to be against them. They're going to devour. They're going to take over the whole world through power that God will allow them to exercise on this earth, while the Christians are in heaven at that time. This beast right here is talking about the world government that will come into play under Antichrist and then be fully reigned by Satan in the last 3.5 years of the tribulation time. All right. And if you notice something, you think about our world today, how easy it is for a nation to rise up that is totally different than anything he's ever seen. Daniel had never seen a nation. It terrified him when he saw this vision. And it says this, while I was thinking about the 10 horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth that spoke boastfully. We know the Antichrist will rise up. He'll become in power over 10 nations. Daniel goes on a little further. He says that 3 of these kingdoms, he's going to uproot, basically. He's going to uproot 3 of the original nations that join with him, or kingdoms that joined with him, which will probably end up causing all other kingdoms of this earth. This guy's going to be boastful. He's going to be prideful. He's got eyes that are prideful. He speaks boastfully, and so on and so forth. This is talking about the Antichrist that we talked about in Revelations. He will rise up during that time, and he will take his position as a world leader. It's going to be the most horrific time in the world when that happens. Okay? Now I'm going to stop right there for a second to give you a little bit more stuff here. Daniel 7 verse 9, we kind of get into a place where it's talking about the only place the Bible ever talks about God as being the Ancient of Days. And this goes along with it also, because during the time of the tribulation, God is going to bring judgment on this earth. All right? And this is talking about a court being set up. Now let's talk just a little bit about these different creatures so far. So we know we've got a lion standing on back feet with his wings plucked. And like I said, America came from England. They supported England. They were the biggest protection of England and everything. Until, like I said, after World War II, then we kind of distanced ourselves from them. Both countries distanced ourselves, and they're doing their own things. But then you've got another country with the bear. All right? Now, the bear, like I said, is Russian symbol, their national symbol. And they've been a vicious people. They've killed and killed and killed, which represented by the ribs in its mouth. And they was told to eat its fill. And then so on and so forth. And we got the leopard, which was a African symbol of the leopard. It could be a coalition from the African and Arab nations joined together. So all these different groups, the Russians, England, Russia, and then so on down into Africa and the Arab nations joining together all around Israel during this time. But their kingdoms will nowhere near be like that fourth kingdom of that beast with the iron teeth that's going to devour and destroy. And it even scared somebody that Daniel wasn't scared of anything, not even being thrown in the lion's den. But it terrified him when he saw what that vision of that beast. All through the Bible, there's been times where those are related that way. Even in Daniel's teachings and writings, it talks about beasts representing countries, okay, which we're going to see that as we get into chapter 8 also. It's very possible these could be the scenarios that are being set up around us right now. We're going to be talking about a little bit more in Revelations. We're going to be talking just a little bit about Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, because when you read it, it talks about Gog and Magog, and the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And that is referring to a northern army that's going to come against Jerusalem. That's going to come against Israel during the last days. Matter of fact, Joel chapter 2 talks about, read Joel chapter 2, that God said he's going to remove the northern army far from them, put them all the way as far as Siberia. And there's only one place on earth in Joel chapter 2 where it talks about he moves them all the way up to the eastern seas. And that's how far he's going to remove them. There's only one place. That's in Russia, and Siberia is where that's located at. So that probably will set off everything. But like I said, this is Brother Perry Williams. Stay tuned. Go to my YouTube channel. If you don't have, if you can't get Facebook, look it up. You can follow the progressions there. And hopefully I'll keep doing this. But stay tuned. I don't know exactly what time I'll keep doing these. I've got to find a time that's going to work out without being disturbed. So keep praying for me, and I'll keep praying for you. God bless you. Have a great day.